Make crypto great again. It's a new all-time high. Trump is the 47th president of the United States and Bitcoin has reached 75K and maybe even higher. We're going to discuss everything in this update as it's potentially the big breaker that we are looking for in the markets. Everything in this update, of course, for you on your journey towards financial freedom or towards protecting your purchasing power. Let's get started. It's the election update. It is in the beginning of November where we've seen that Trump has won by a significant lead. And more importantly, he didn't even win the elections on that alone, but he's also taken more positions. And we'll discuss that, including the impact that it will have on crypto as the entire market has been going up. But before we continue, of course, next week we're going to start something new. I said it in the previous updates. Next week on Tuesday, the 12th, we're going to post our first podcast, which is called New Era Finance. You can find the link in the description beneath, so you can subscribe there if you want to be the first. Our first guest is an interesting one. And I would like to ask you, who would you like to see as one of our guests in the podcast? We are still looking for extra guests or maybe ideas from you, so that will be great. Then also, I've seen some comments from you guys on whether I can get enough sleep and stuff. Well, last night, this is being shot on Wednesday morning. The last night, I didn't get enough sleep, but I've made a post on Instagram on this topic, so check it out, and then you can see what's going on with me. Now, going back to the fun stuff, Trump is the 47th and 45th president of the United States, and he didn't even win by a small gap. He actually won by a landslide, and that is not only on him alone, it's also on some other things, which is, as you can see here, Trump won the popular vote, they won the college, they took the Senate, and they're also gaining more than 50% in the House, which means that he's got everything in favor of the Republicans on all the positions possible, which means that everything that he wants to do can easily pass through. I mean, in the past periods with the presidents, we always had the Senate being Democrats or the House being Democrats, while we've got a Republican president just pushing it back even more. But in this case, he won it all. So that's an interesting one. To be honest, from an ethical standpoint, I do not believe it's great for the world, but we'll see. I think it's going to have a tremendous impact for Europe. It's going to have an impact in NATO, and it's also going to have an impact with the wars, and then also for crypto. And that is the more important part that I would like to focus on. I said it in the previous updates, if Trump gets elected, everything goes into an additional faster modus towards bigger adoption. And in that aspect, Brian Armstrong, the CEO of Coinbase, tweeted that we've got the most pro-crypto Congress ever. 219 pro-crypto candidates and counting have now been elected to the House and Senate, which is super positive. And we also know that the vice president is a pro-crypto guy, and Trump himself, of course, is also pro-Bitcoin and pro-crypto. And he's been saying a few interesting things at Bitcoin USA earlier this year, in which I would like to summarize a few important points that are probably going to take place in the early stages of 2025. So first of all, he's looking to support the Bitcoin miners even more in the US. That is great, that's fun, but the key part is he wants to have a Bitcoin strategic reserve. And if that happens, then the second country after El Salvador is going to be the USA. And they are going to build a treasury in Bitcoin. And Bitcoin just exists for 10 years, a little bit more, but it exists for 10 years approximately. If this country, the USA, is going to build a position in Bitcoin, then the banana zone is going to be even longer, which means that the upside for Bitcoin is going to be tremendous, which is comparable to what we've seen in 2016, 2017 in terms of adoption. I've always been saying that that was the real bull cycle, and we're getting into the second real bull cycle. So which I expect that this bull cycle is going to be way higher. And these things are key ingredients of how high and how far we can go. Then also, he is going to pardon Ross Ulbricht, who is the Silk Road founder, still in jail, but likely in January when Trump is going to be the president, he will get free, and he's against CBDCs, which means a bigger adoption for stablecoins, a bigger adoption for crypto in general. So that is super positive for crypto, and I think that because he has been elected, from here it's going to be up only onwards as the expectations are bullish, and I think DeFi is going to wake up as well. But what we've seen is also the fact that the yields are still going up. And the reason that the yields are doing so great is that people expect the economy to do well, through which the yields are higher in the US than they are in China and Europe. China is already correcting a little bit after the elections have been taking place. And we've got some key events that we're looking for. So the first one is tonight, which is the FOMC meeting. The expectations are that we're going to have a rate cut of 25 bips, and there is an expectation that we'll be having more rate cuts, but the markets are not pricing in more rate cuts. Trump wants to have them, so it's expected that it's going to be accelerated. And once the yields start to drop based on that, it's going to push the markets even further. And that's also based on the key events that we had previous week. I discussed it then too. The labor markets are getting weaker, so there is a chance that we're going to have a recession. Last week we had the NFP data, which showed a data point of 12K, which is the worst in 4 years. And the expectations are that the rate cuts are going to take place. So once the yields go down, Trump is getting the momentum. I think crypto is just going to go up until he gets into the White House. But once the yields will drop, Ethereum starts to go up, and the entire market will follow through. So the good times are finally here. Let's get to the charts where we discuss what we are seeing. A new all-time high is great, but is it going to continue, or is it just we take the liquidity and we go back down? I think the last one is probably what the markets are expecting, or the sentiment of social media is saying, as we've just experienced the longest bear market for altcoins, and the switch is taking place right now. So when we look at the charts, we can see that Bitcoin is nicely trending upwards. And as a matter of fact, since we had this crash in August, the Japanese yen carry trade crash, we started to trend up. We were making higher lows, higher highs. The first higher low was made at the beginning of September. The first higher high was actually created here. And we started to continue making higher lows, in which the crucial area pre-elections was around 67K, in which we corrected towards that area where we had a slight momentum for Harris instead of Trump. And now during the night where Trump was getting more votes in and it was pretty convincing for him to become the next president, Bitcoin started to rally up. But the more important part is that because Bitcoin rallied, we see everything in the altcoin and crypto ecosystem just pushing up even more. So we see that Bitcoin has reached 75K, even a little bit higher. And we're looking to hold support around 70K for continuation upwards. And now the other important charts that I keep track of is the yields. I've been saying that the yields need to go down in order to have Ethereum to do well. I think at this point, the yields can go up or consolidate, and Ethereum will still do well, as the yields going up is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength for Trump, as he expects economic growth. But once it starts to rotate from the FOMC meeting, it's expected that it will push forward the adoption to crypto and that Ethereum will even do better. But what we can see here is that the yields have had its first push upwards, and we can see that Ethereum against Bitcoin is finally showing a little bit of momentum, but it's still far to go. So when we're looking at this one, all the way towards the elections, Ethereum was falling down, and it showed a lot of weakness, and we might still have a little bit more weakness here, but we are printing a massive bullish divergence, indicating that we're going to reverse on ETH. And when ETH reverses, the rest of the markets are going to reverse as well. So yields consolidating or going down, Ether goes up. When Ether goes up, new projects are getting listed, updates go out, adoption grows, more liquidity into the DeFi ecosystem of ETH itself, and the whole tandem is just gonna go up in that case. So we are looking at some crucial levels that ETH needs to break through, and I'll get to the altcoins in a little bit. But Ether is currently facing a few crucial resistance zones. What I want to see is that we break through 0.036, basically print a new high at 0.0385. So make a chart like this, and then make a higher low, and we can continue going up from there. That's what I want to see, including the case that the yields are dropping a little bit. If this happens, it can inject the first 2 to 5x or maybe even more on your altcoins. As recently we've seen that some altcoins like Uniswap have already been pushing up by 30% in just a single day. And that comes through no liquidity on the altcoins, so volatility can increase quite substantially. And secondly, it's just a breakout, so interest increases. And when things on Ether, like Uniswap, like Compound, like Aave, which is also coming from an area of interest and bounced back upwards, in which it's just breaking through $160 and is up 20% on a single day, it shows that DeFi is going to accelerate from here, and that I'm pretty positive on being positioned into the ETH ecosystem. So at this stage, if we look at the charts, it's going to be great. And what's going to be great as well? Tesla. It's probably going to do a skyrocket upwards, in which we're currently seeing, and again, this is shot on Wednesday morning, pre-market, it's at $285. The last time it closed, it was $251. So it's up a lot, and it's expected to continue going up a lot. It's expected to see the stock markets to do well, and it's expected to see that crypto continues. So perhaps we're going to see Bitcoin at 80,000, and I expect it to reach 100K in this quarter. Hey, but Michael, you went all into altcoins and you're down 70%. What is your plan? You're always wrong. That's also a comment that we're getting quite often. I mean, I'd like to be wrong but make money anyways. It's not about being wrong or right. It's about making consistent amount of money, which I've not been making in the past 5 months, as we were too early. But my strategy when it comes to the markets, I've been positioned into DeFi and into ETH a lot. And I think if you go back to watch the video that I've made on my portfolio, that is technically how I look at it. Some of those positions are doing quite well. Some of those positions are still heavily underwater. And I think what I've learned over the past 7 years, 7 to 8 years actually, is that crypto can turn you quite fastly into a boomer and into a very old person. But overall, it tells me that people in crypto think in extremes. So it's extremely bearish at this point. The valuations are super low for most of the projects, and quite fairly, they need to be lower for some even more. But in the bull market, it goes way higher than we all expect. So the predictions of Bitcoin going to 100K to 120K as a max is the same as what I've seen in the previous cycle when we were trading around 6K, that the expectations were 30K and we were done. I think the previous cycle, Bitcoin should have gone to 100 to 150K. And with the fact that likely Bitcoin becomes a treasury asset for the USA, this is going to go way higher than we expect it to go at this point because of the sentiment that we see around us. And that also means that I think that the next cycle is going to be compared to 2017, the dot-com bubble cycle for crypto, where the altcoins are going to go bananas. They're going to go crazy. So I'm happily positioned into them. And I think within approximately a month to 1.5, the altcoins are going to double or even more. So I think in terms of strategy, I'll be positioned into this. I'll be discussing it in the upcoming update as well. But if you want to get into altcoins, I think this is the best period to do it. And it's also a good period to reach out to us on the consultancy where we can help you. I think it's the final, easy, optimal financial decision you could make in terms of your investment into crypto. So that is technically my strategy. I'm staying into them. If I can, I'll be allocating more. I'm trading options. So that's it. Thank you very much for watching to this episode about Trump and the elections. A shorter version. Next time we're going to have a longer one. And on Tuesday, the first episode of New Era Finance. Make sure to subscribe to that channel and I'll see you again on Sunday. Ciao!